Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. Black heart, black mind, black end. Again, hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. So listen closely, y'all. I'm going to tell you about, as you saw in the title, Western Europe and not just France. I know that there was a teacher that apparently showed some images of, or depictions of Muhammad ibn Abdullah, peace and prayers be on him. And he got beheaded, and apparently it was a Chechen student that did it. And that student was shot to death, and pretty much nobody in the community had even seen this student go anywhere around other Muslims. So apparently he was not active in the community, and he committed this vigilante act and he got killed. I'm not going to speak on that for the most part, except to say that if he committed the crime, the police killed him already. They didn't even have to pay for housing him, clothing him, feeding him, and a trial. The cops took care of all of that. But France had to retaliate. And of course, a French man went and stabbed two hijab-wearing Muslim women at the Eiffel Tower while calling them dirty Arabs as he stabbed them. And then apparently a Christian man went into a church, screamed out Allahu Akbar, and killed some people in the church. A Christian man who wanted to kill Muslims according to his social media profile. These are the stories that are coming out, and you may have read different stories. I'm just saying these are the articles. I'm not saying that these are the facts. But France has been pretty much retaliating by saying, in the name of freedom of speech, we're going to not only depict Muhammad, we're going to specifically republish the offensive depictions of him that were put out by Charlie Hebdo a while back. Now, only 7% of France is Muslim, only 7%. But I still want you to understand this. That 7% apparently is one of the biggest populations in biggest Muslim populations in a Western European nation. To get more than that, I think you'd have to go to Eastern Europe. I'm going to tell you that I myself really don't give a rat's behind about Europe. What I want you to understand is that France is the villain in this. Now, I don't know what the teacher was, I don't know the lesson the teacher was teaching. I don't know if he was just showing historical depictions and the kid flipped out and killed him, or if he showed something offensive and the kid flipped out and killed him. I don't know what that situation is, and I don't particularly care right now. What I want y'all to understand is that France has been very arrogant, and they've been one of the pioneers of racism along with the U.S. Hear me out. The Muslims took Spain with no apology, and I don't apologize for that. It was an invasion, so damn what. We invaded, or if you want to include me in the guilt of that, we invaded a Western European country, the population of which actually requested that Muslims go in to free them from somebody called the Visigoths. And that's when Muslims went across. It started off as a war to free another group of people from oppression, because that actually was something that Muslims did. And expanded the borders of the Muslim empire, the caliphate, and we make no apologies for that until other countries apologize. France has not apologized for the colonization of its former colonies, and they really ruined them. When the white Catholic Spaniards drove out the Muslims of all colors from, and even the Jews of all colors from Spain, Spain was actually developed. It was the Spaniards that learned how to wash their funky behinds from some brown people. But let me put it to you like this. While they'll sit up and say that they don't deserve to be colonized and ruled by anybody, but they can do this to everyone else because that's actually improving everyone else's situation, I'm going to tell you something that's not the case. Now, I'm going to tell you something that is the case, actually. In reality, if you really want to know what happened, shortly after New Year's Day of 1493, that was when the last Muslim ruled jurisdiction was invaded and the Muslim ruler was ousted. It was around that time, and his daughter the ruler's daughter did not manage to escape with him. So this Muslim woman wound up being the concubine of King Ferdinand. That pretty much meant he was cheating on Isabella with a Muslim woman as a concubine, and then when he got tired of her, digging her out, he sent her to a convent. And she had to die listed as a Catholic because at this point, the Inquisition was in order, and if you were openly Muslim or Jewish, or even the wrong kind of Christian, they tortured you to death. They tortured you to conversion or to death. So anyway, Columbus was one of the major generals there. He was one of the commanders of one of the Spanish armies that went in and did this. Now, Columbus, shortly after that, went to the king and queen and asked them for money for another voyage. And that's that famous voyage in which he supposedly discovered America, but he actually began a genocide. That's really what happened. So it was unfortunate, but by Christmas time of 1492, the original Tainos were beginning to die in the Northern Caribbean, beginning to die off, and they were already being mistreated. They were beginning to die off from disease and from the mistreatment. So the genocide of the original Americans of the Americas began not because the Muslims did something wrong to the Spaniards, but because the Muslims did not remain strong and keep them under the thumb. If there's anybody that is truly a savage and needs to be ruled from the outside for other people to be safe, it is that Western European. Now, at the time that the Muslims were going into Spain, both Berbers and Arabs, going into Spain and taking it, they began to quarrel about the time they got to the Pyrenees Mountains, and so they did not take France. France has been arrogant in dealing with Muslims all the way up until today. And as we know, they went into different parts of West Africa and they colonized them. Senegal, Morocco, Tunisia, and Algeria are just some of their many colonies on the African continent. So they went and they did this. I don't have to tell you about what they did to Haiti. And many of us have now heard that they've been taking, not only from Haiti, but from any black former colony, dues, damages. Every time one of the colonies becomes independent, they come along and they say, well, you have to sign this agreeing to pay us and prop up our economy, or we're going to come back. That's not development, people. That's extortion. That's robbery. That's pretty much all that is. So that's how France has a living standard for which the rest of the European Union wouldn't just kick them out and turn them into the niggers of Western Europe. Macron was a little fornicator at age 15, and he's also the victim of a double standard because, of course, in Western society, the minor is not the one that's at fault. It's the adult that sleeps with the minor that's at fault. But he's the victim of the double standard because he was a 15-year-old boy screwing an older teacher. You understand where I'm going with this. He doesn't get any benefit of the doubt. He's not a victim. They make fun of him. They mock him because she's older. Anyway, this does bother him. Instead of him lashing out at the Western European hypocritical society that's lashed out at him, he decides to lash out at Muslims. And say, we're going to publish not only depictions of Muhammad, but we're going to publish the ones that were offensive, and we're going to do it on the sides of buildings everywhere, and we're not going to stop. Then, to show you how narcissistic that Western European is, he says to Muslims, stop boycotting our products. Now, I was at an international grocer last week. A week ago today, I was at an international grocer with my wife. And there were French products in large numbers on these shelves. They couldn't sell them. And I wondered why employees were sitting up here photographing them. And what I come to understand is that they were photographing them to show others that they're being boycotted. Join the boycott. You better not buy nothing from them francophones. You better not buy nothing from them Franks. Leave their stuff on the shelves and hit them in the pockets. And that's exactly what we should be doing. We owe no apologies. What France really deserves is to be colonized. Not only by Muslims, but by the biggest, blackest, widest nose, biggest lip, darkest, nappiest headed, biggest feet Negroes who speak a language that sounds like something out of a Tarzan movie and are also Muslim, to colonize and enslave them. Because believe you me, we are required to treat people, if we do enslave anyone, we're required to treat them far better than any free person was treated by the French colonial authorities when they were being colonized. That's real. And I make no apologies for saying this. This is not hate speech. This is justice. Now, what does this have to do with the black manosphere? I'm telling you that the Western European, in general, is not capable of understanding how wrong their people were. Now, the individuals generally can, some cannot, but their societies are not fully capable of understanding how wrong their people were. So what they do is they say get over it, but they don't get over anything. And you can hear this with the white MGTOW. Feminism bad, but white supremacy good. That's how they view it. That's their mindset. So they can't see whenever something bad happens to them as being from their own hands. And that's why if a hurricane goes and mashes up certain parts of the southeastern United States, or even the eastern coast, the northeastern coast, they can't say, well, they can't ever think about it being because of something that they did. Oh, no, absolutely not. Nah, God doesn't punish. But if an earthquake happens in Haiti, they'll say it's because they're doing that voodoo. And it may be right. Maybe that is why God hits them with the earthquakes. But see, God is not partial and racist the way that human beings, especially that Western European, is. That's not how the Lord operates. You get punished for your sins, you get punished for your sins. If you're not being punished now in this life, it's because he hates you so much, he's storing it up for you in the next. And it's going to hit you in that grave. Then, when you wake up from the grave and face judgment, that's how it's explained to us. You don't want to be the one that does bad things in this life and gets away with it. That means the Lord really hates you. He's not even going to admonish you now. He's waiting on you to keep on doing more and more, and you're piling hot coals on your own head. You're buying more and more punishment. It's just a question of waiting for that delivery to reach you now. So that has to do with the black manosphere, though, believe it or not. See, this same narcissistic colonizer, oppressor, kidnapper, mass murderer is the one that got Becky and Karen and Amber, who are also narcissistic and can't see when they're wrong. Can never see themselves being wrong. He's the one that got them to come to Sapphire and Boomshika and Bonquisha. And instead of telling them choose between hypergamy and feminism, told them keep your hypergamy and take on this feminism and run all the men off. And oppress the ones that are dumb enough to stick around and stay with you. Yeah, the same one. So the European man is oftentimes upset. Even the MGTOW, when if he's a right winger, is upset because what their people did came back to haunt them. Heroin came back to haunt them. Feminism came back to haunt them. After these things had done their jobs, their intended jobs on our communities, now they had to deal with some of these effects, and they're upset. Because in their mind, nothing bad should have ever happened to them in the first place, no matter what they did. And so they sent their ladies to ours, according to Gloria Steinem's own confession, sent their ladies to ours in the 60s and 70s, and Now, Boom Shika, Bonquisha, and Sapphire can never understand that. Well, I shouldn't say never, but what I mean is that the ones I'm calling Boom Shika, Bonquisha, and Sapphire cannot understand that they're wrong. The ones who can are not even the ones I refer to as Boom Shika, Bonquisha, and Sapphire. But Boom Quisha, Bonquisha, Boom Shika, and Sapphire refer to those ladies as pick-me's or pick-mishas. So this is what I want you to understand. Although I do talk and sometimes I will address them, usually I'll address you, but I want you to keep in mind the majority of them are not capable of ever believing that they've done anything wrong, that anything that they do is wrong. And I'm going to tell you, I've taught some people like this. There's some students I've taught like this. I'm going to tell you something about the students I've taught like this. They were narcissists. A lot of times they were in middle school, but they were narcissists. And it's the same thing even now in the university where I live. They're not violent like the little bads behind 7th graders I taught in the States, but they're about as narcissistic. It's not cheating when they do it. I mean, they don't want a doctor who cheated operating on their mother, but when they cheat in class, even when they're pre-med students, that's different. Oh, that's altogether different. And they say to me, well, Dr. Black, didn't you cheat in high school? No, Father Mucker, I didn't actually. Even when I went to an all-black high school where they acted like cheating was a recreational sport, I didn't participate in it. And had to argue and damn near had to fight because I wouldn't do that. So no, nigga, don't come to me and try to justify that. I don't care how many of your people cheat. I don't care how normal you all have grown to think it is. It's not normal. You're a little rat bastard for thinking that it is and saying that it is. You cheat on everything. At least when my people did cheat, we were cheating in the context of a system that was out to get us. You're cheating in your own country where your educational system is not your enemy, and they're even paying you a stipend to study higher education so you don't have to go in debt or worry about a job until you're done. And what do? You cheat. And then continue on from level to level and become a class clown. They can't understand how wrong they are. They can't admit that they're wrong. You could catch them. You could show them, look, you cheated from this website and I can see it right here. No, doctor, I didn't cheat. I wrote the website. Then I printed it out. Really? So you bought the website pennstate.edu? Yeah, doctor. I just paid for a website and that's what I got. Oh, okay. So you own the .edu website? Yeah, nigga, okay, sure you do. You lying sack of cuss word. They can't admit, and I was teaching students in the States that were the same way. They could not admit that they were wrong. They couldn't even see that they were wrong. When they steal, it's okay, but you better not steal from them or you deserve to die. That was in their mindset. And when you get kids like this and there is no consequence, you're dealing with someone you are going to have to kill later. You do not want somebody to go into the 7th grade, let alone get out of 7th grade, having that mindset. They're not capable of taking correction, and they're dangerous to other people. And I'm going to tell you now, this was a long time ago that I was teaching them. So now they're out of high school. Whether they finished or not, they're out of high school. That's where they are. Wherever they are, they're out of high school. So you're driving by some of them. Yeah. Sad, isn't it? But that's what we're dealing with now. Dealing with a situation in which the anti-black misandric feminists are not capable of understanding that they're wrong and that they have a role to play in the outcomes of the decisions that they have made. They may even be logically capable of understanding it. They just refuse to accept it. And you're wrong for telling them. It's just like France. France having the nerve to say, we're going to insult the Muslims, we're going to rile you up, but don't boycott us. Don't boycott you. Man, you're supposed to be colonized and enslaved. You're supposed to be done to what you did to others even before it got to this point. And they have the nerve, the same one, Macron, who said, we will not stop showing these images, also told Muslims stop boycotting us. What's he going to do? Fly into Muslim countries where his products are legally bought and sold and tell every individual household, go there and buy the cream cheese that tastes nasty at the store? No. See, this bothers them because every time the Muslims boycott any products from any Western nation, you know what happens? Locals step up and fill in the gap. There are local soft drinks in the Gulf now, locally produced and made, because there was a time when they would not buy Coca-Cola or Pepsi. Now, Coca-Cola and Pepsi sell, but they got to compete with local brands. The only thing that they have to offer that the local brands don't is they have diet alternatives. That's it. That's really all it is. So, in order to get local cream cheese, this is going to mean more agriculture, just as an example. But yeah, French products are pretty... Lacoste. There's a French-owned grocery chain, Carrefour, and it is empty in the Gulf. Oh, it exists in the Gulf, especially in the big cities, but they are empty. People ain't going into them. The employees are sitting up saying, man, we're going to lose this money. They're going to lay us off soon. But what I'm getting you to understand is that narcissism that says, I'm going to continue to do this and offend you, but you should not react. And that's exactly what we're dealing with in our community. And that's why there's a black manosphere. Because you're dealing with someone that says, we're going to continue to offend you and insult you, and don't react. Oh, the boogeyman was one of those that has been supporting that, because he even says, now that you understand female nature, what you gonna do about it? What you mean, what we gonna do about it? We're gonna tell the guys in the family, hopefully, and we're going to start avoiding these B words and trade them in favor of women that are going to at least fight that nature, if that really is their nature. I mean, if their nature is cruel and malicious like this, we're going to leave them for women who will fight that nature. A better question is, what are you going to do? Since you understand war and combat, what are you going to teach us to defend ourselves from that? That's where the crickets come in. Anyway, I've said enough. It's time to pray. Thank you for listening. Black heart, black mind, black in. Again. Actually, black out, sorry. And black heterosexual non-select male power just because they don't like it.